Hello, hello, hello. Happy Monday, y'all. Happy Faith Purpose Profit Monday. A time we connect every Monday at 7 p.m. EST, and we connect all things faith, purpose with profit. I'm Nicole Roberts Jones, your bankroll, your brains expert. I'm always excited, happy, and blessed to pour into you all three of those pieces because it is the intersection of all those three that you get to live as a highest and best version of who God created you to be. So as you're coming in, y'all know how I do. As I say every week, don't come in this house and not speak, number one. Number two, if I share anything that resonates with you, I want to know. So I will come and shout you out toward the end because I want to stay focused. My goal is to always be here 30 minutes because I want to honor your time. You've worked hard all day, many of you, all of you, and I want you to have your evening, number one. Number two, because y'all are busy. So grab your pen. I'm literally going to continue a conversation I started last week. Those of you that joined us for the Rich in Your Niche Summit, last Monday was kind of the pre-party for the summit. And so I started sharing with you a story of the Shunammite. I'm going to mess her name up. I'm going to tell you now because I'm hooked on phonics. The Shunammite woman. And I'm going to peel back the layers more, but let me tell you our topic for tonight, and I'm going to review that and then go deeper. So, our topic for tonight is when it's time to recalibrate. So, some of you don't realize that it's time to recalibrate. Some of you don't know when it's time or how to tell that it's time. And many of you, it is time. And so, just like a GPS recalibrates, a couple of different reasons that a GPS will recalibrate. One is sometimes you have taken a wrong turn. But a GPS sometimes recalibrates because it's traffic or you're settling. Uh-huh. So it happens in your career when you've been on this track for long enough and it's time for you to do something different. Many of you have been in a career for so long and your gift is now too big for where you are. Your job, your career is now no longer big enough for your gift. It may have been when you first started your career, but God has another level for you to climb. Those of you that have been in my community for a while, you've heard me talk about the fact that your purpose, your genius, your brilliance matriculates. Those of you that were with us during the Rich in Your Niche, some of you heard Pastor Petrie say this, and I borrow it from him now with permission, that your brilliance grows on levels and we arrive in stages. God never intended you to end where you started, which means he always has another form for you to transform into. So if that's the case, that's the recalibration I'm talking about. So I need you to understand that when it's a new level for you to climb, there are things you got to go through to go and get it. It doesn't just happen automatically. And then for many of you, you're in the middle of your recalibration. And if you use your GPS, you know, if you don't take the turn that the GPS is telling you, if you keep taking the wrong turn, you're going to stay stuck right where you are. Many of you are stuck and you don't even realize it because you're not recalibrating. I'm going to apologize every time I cough. My allergies have been off the chain the last couple of weeks. I don't know what's going on in the air, the atmosphere. Okay. So, in order to illustrate this, I started a conversation last week here in part one about the Shunammite woman. I'm going to mess her name up. I'm going to tell you that every time I say it. So, the first part is in 2 Kings chapter 4. I'm going to do a quick review and then I'm going to go into the second part. Okay. So, the second part now, this is kind of a Cliff Note version or Cliff Note summary. So the Shunammite woman, so Elisha, used to go through the same town over and over again. And the Shunammite woman said, to her husband, who was older, hey, we should build a room on our house because he keeps coming up and through here. Now, the fact that she could say we should build a room on our house because she used to feed him at first. And then she said, we should have just built him a room. Who could say that? We should just go and build this brother a room and make him a place to stay because he keeps coming through here. So number one, we need to know that she was wealthy and she used her wealth to support Elisha in his travels doing the work he was doing for God. Okay. In the same way that God chooses you to support someone that needs you. I need you to get that. Okay. So that's what we talked about, the niche, the specialization. That's what we talked about last week. Okay. So she used her house. Now, guess what? She wasn't the only person that had a house on that street, but she decided to use her house to be the answer to a need. Okay. Then Elisha sent his servant to ask her, "What do you want? Because you keep blessing me. How can I bless you back?" See, that's what I mean by profit, y'all, because God wants you to gain because you are using your gift to gain. Y'all with me? So that's what I talked about last week. So to carry this story forward before I start going into the part I want you to give for this week. So what happens is Elisha again sends his servant in 2 Kings 4:12 through 13. His servant is named Gehazi, Gehazi, because I'm going to mess up everybody's names. Don't listen. Just because I'm hooked on phonics, don't miss your blessing because I can't pronounce people's names. He sends Gehazi to ask her, "What do you want? How can I bless you?" So she's pretty much like, "Oh, I don't need anything. I'm good." But he says, you don't have a child and your husband is old. So I'm going to bless you with a child. So he blesses her with a child. Now let me cut to ahead and the child dies. The child dies. He has like, it's like heat. He has like a heat stroke. Child dies. Elisha brings the child back to life. Okay. So all that happens. Now I'm bringing you up to chapter 8. Okay. So that was chapter 4, 5, 6, 7. Now I'm bringing you up to chapter 8. You with me? Now you guys can go read all of this in the middle, but I'm bringing you up to chapter 8 for a reason. Y'all with me? So 2 Kings chapter 8, 1 through 2 says this. So we're looking at chapter 8, verses 1 through 6, part 1 and part 2. Okay. So chapter 8, 1 through 2 says this. Then Elisha spoke to the woman, talking about the Shunammite woman, the same woman, whose son he had restored to life, saying, "Arise and go, you and your household, and stay wherever you can, for the Lord has called for a famine. And it's going to be a famine for 7 years." So the woman rose and did according to the man of God. Now, the reason I'm sharing that with you is because not only has this woman's son died, but now he brings the son back to life. And now he's saying, okay, now you got to move. You got to go leave all of your wealth, everything you own, because there's getting ready to be a famine. So you need to understand this woman is coachable. She listens. And she's obviously gone through a lot, y'all. What it doesn't say in the Bible is she obviously has lost her husband because she ends up finding another husband in this place that she travels to. In the 7 years that she's in this new place, in this famine. And her husband was already old. Okay, y'all with me? So I want you to get this because here's what I see so many people do, and this is where they mess up their blessing. God's intentional. God knew what he was doing when he told her or used Elisha to tell her to go and move to some new place for 7 years. Number one, if you stay here, you're going to be hungry. It's bad enough your son already died. I had to bring him back to life. Do you want to die of hunger? She listened. And here's what I see so many people do. And this was me too, by the way. Y'all heard my story. Those of you that have been around me, were in the Rich in Your Niche Summit, that took me 17 years to get a coach because I wasn't coachable. I thought I knew it all. My ego was in the way. For many of you, the reason your business isn't growing is because your ego's in the way. You're not coachable. Or you get in a program, your coach tells you to do things, you still do it your own way. You're not willing to do the work. And you wonder why your business is still failing. You're not doing the work. I'm going to leave that right there. For many of you, that is a break that you might have needed tonight. You either haven't got with a coach or you've gotten with a coach, but you're not listening to what your coach is telling you to do. You think you know better. If you knew better, your business would already be where you wanted it to be. So the thing that I see this woman is doing story after story throughout chapter 4 through 8 is she's coachable. She does exactly what this man of God is telling her to do. Now, I'm not saying you should listen to everybody, but here's the other thing that I realize is that her spirit is telling her to listen to this man of God. Same thing, Esther. Same thing, David, I talked about during Rich in Your Niche Summit. I need you guys to get this. So you don't just listen to anybody. But when your spirit feels like it's in alignment with that person, and you know that they're not leading you down some crazy rabbit hole, you need to listen. Okay. Then going into verse 3. Now I want you guys to go read this, and I really want to hear your takeaways in part 2. I'll tell you about what we're going to talk part 2 in a minute. It came to pass at the end of 7 years. This is verse 3. That the woman returned from the land of the Philistines, and she went to make an appeal to the king for her house and for her land. Now, why did she have to appeal to the king? Because she no longer owned her house. Somebody else had the nerve to take over her house. So now this woman has lost her son. She had to move from her land. Now, mind you, she was wealthy. Remember, because she could say, oh, I'm gonna build a room for Elisha. So the house that she built a room on, she lost it in the famine. So she has to go back to the land to appeal for her house. So some of you guys are like, oh my God, she should have never left. My question to you is, can you trust the process? Sometimes it'll look like you're failing, but God always has a plan in the middle of it all. If you have not listened to Tyler Perry's story that I posted in the Brilliance Tribe, I need you to go listen to it. There are times in the middle of a breakthrough that it looks like you're getting ready to fail. That's when faith is doing its best work. Even in the middle of Esther's story that we talked about in the Rich in Your Niche Summit, she said, if I die, I die. Because she could have died. And according to what the world would say, it looked like she was going to die. So I really want you to think about this. I do have a third thing. So number 1 is, are you coachable? Number 2 is, will you trust the process? I do have a third step. I'm going to talk about that tomorrow, but I'm going to sit with that for a minute. I'm going to talk about that in part 2. I'm going to sit in this for a minute because it's this trust piece that gets so many people hung up. This was me too, by the way. So I'm never pointing a finger, right? And I want to say this. There's a story in Matthew 14, 28 through 31, which illustrates this perfectly. Now, you guys know we have all heard about Peter walking on the water. And I want you to really think about this. I'm going to read this story because we've heard it. We've heard it since we were little. But as we grow and we have different life perspective, I want you to really think about this in a context to you trusting God around your business, around your purpose. Okay. So Matthew 14, 28 through 31 says this. And Peter answered him and said, Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water. Now, there's a bigger context to what's happening right now, but I want to just get right into this so that you understand this whole trusting piece. Because let me tell you something, no trust, no purpose, no building your business. I'm going to tell you, without trust, your business won't work. You won't be able to build your business. You'll start it. But when you get into the middle, that's where trust is needed. That's the tool that I think you need the most. Because it's that middle passage. When you start your business, you're excited. You have your vision. It's in the middle where it's dark and you can't see if it's possible, that you need trust, that you need faith. When it looks like you ain't going to make it, when you want to quit. Okay. So Matthew 14, 28 through 31. And some of you guys haven't even started. You haven't even gone all the way in to grow your business because you don't have the faith to do it. You haven't activated your faith all the way to do it. Okay. Matthew 14, 28 through 31. And Peter answered him and said, Lord, if it's you, command me to come to you on the water. So he said, come. And when Peter had come down out of the boat, he walked on the water to go to Jesus. But when he saw that the wind was boistering, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, he cried out, saying, Lord, save me. And immediately Jesus stretched out his hand and caught him. And he said to him, Oh, you of little faith, why did you doubt? So there's 3 things I want you to get. I want you to ponder these 3 things as we go from this part 1 conversation into part 2. Okay. And I'll tell you where we go into part 2. And I really want you to think about this because this is a differentiator. And this is where you need to recalibrate, many of you. This is how you know if it's time to recalibrate. This is the stuff that recalibration is made of. You ready? Number one, you got to let God direct your path. One of my favorite Bible verses is Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him, and he shall direct your path. Again, I said, lean not on your own understanding. The reason my business fell for 17 years is because I kept leaning on my own understanding. And from my own understanding, Miss, I have a master's degree, Miss, I teach at an adjunct, professor, not teach at, I was an adjunct professor. My own understanding, listen, I had not ever had a business, a service-based business in this way. So me leaning on my own understanding, if I was teaching somebody else how to teach, sure, I could teach a lesson plan. Listen, I even got an accelerated MBA and still didn't help. Not in this way. I know, listen, the enemy is fighting my throat. I need y'all to get this. So although the storm was all around Peter, if we would have focused on Jesus, none of that would have mattered. And I need you to get, as your business grows, there are things that are going to happen around you. So even as I learned, okay, I need support, I need help, let me be coachable, and let me trust God in the middle of the strategy. Because when I hired my coach, listen, my coach cost $30,000. I didn't have that money. I had to trust and really invest at the level to which I wanted to see the return. Number one, that was my first trust, because I didn't know that me putting that in, I was going to get it back. I got 6 figures back. Didn't know it, but I was willing to risk it all to gain it all. Number one, to gain for God. Number two, I was trusting God, not myself. I wasn't investing in my coach. I was investing in me and really in my purpose. I was investing in who God created me to be. And I knew, as Beyonce says, I'm always going to invest in me. I'm always going to bet on me. But that was the first time in my life that I bet on myself. I wasn't betting on my mom, my dad, my cousin. I wasn't betting on Louboutin or Louis Vuitton. I wasn't betting on Gucci. I wasn't betting on Mercedes or any of that. And many of you will go out and buy the latest designer handbag, but you will not invest in your purpose. What's that about? You'll invest in USC or UCLA or whatever school that is because it looks good on your resume, but you will not invest on the thing you need to move your purpose for. What's that about? And then you won't stay focused on the thing that's going to move your purpose forward, which is God and the strategy that God is walking you through, which is the instrument. So for the Shunammite woman, it was Elisha. God was using that prophet to bless her life. Oh, we're going to talk more about that in part 2. I'm going to show you how increase came because she was coachable and she trusted the process, even when it didn't look good. Even though her son died, she didn't know he was going to come back to life. She still trusted the process. Even when Tyler Perry was absolutely failing, y'all. Every time I look at Tyler Perry now, and by the way, I'm gonna pin it to the top in the Facebook group so you can see it. Let me type in here. Those of you that aren't members of the Facebook group, I'm gonna type it here in the banner so you can join. Because listen, it's thebrilliancetribe.com. If you're not a member of the Facebook group, again, it's the Brilliance Tribe. I don't know why I think I can talk and chew gum and I can type this at the same time. Somebody type that in the chat. Thebrilliancetribe.com is the Facebook group. I'm going to pin it to the top in the I'm laughing because I really cannot talk and chew gum, right? I don't want it to scroll. There it goes. Okay. So that brilliancetribe.com is where you go to join the Facebook group. So I'm going to pin it to the top, those of you that are not in the Facebook group. But the reason I want you to watch it because the number of times he failed, the number of times that, listen, even Oprah failed after she had a successful TV show. First of all, the person that fired her from her first journalism job, I can go on and on. Steve Jobs failed. I mean, I can go on and on about even Kentucky Fried Chicken failed. First of all, Kentucky Fried Chicken fried his chicken and had it at a gas station, okay? I can go on and on about all the people that are successful now, but we see the success on the other side. We don't often see the failure. Even J.K. Rowling's Miss Harry Potter that got turned down, I think it was by 12 publishers. It might have been more than that. While she was a struggling single mom. I can go on and on about the number of people that failed that did not give up. So when you know, like you know, you have this gift in you, that God has put purpose in you, you cannot give up because there's a people attached to your yes. And you're selfish when you make it about you. The Shunammite woman didn't give up. She stayed focused. So the first thing you've got to know is God will direct your path, even though the storm may be raging, right? So my first question to you that I really want you to ponder before we move into part 2 tomorrow, what does looking to Jesus look like for you? This is that being work I always encourage you to do. Number 2, when Jesus commands you to do something, what is you sitting in quiet contemplation, to find it out, to get clear on the path you need? What does that look like for you? And is there an area that you need strategy to move forward in, especially around your business? I know this was me. I was clear what I was called to do, but I had no idea how to do it. This is one of the reasons why I'm inviting you. I'm going to invite all of you until we are sold out to join me at my 2-day intensive. I didn't think I was going to invite you guys today, so let me write this on. Be the Answer Intensive. Many of you know that we have opened up enrollment. So if you know, like you know, you should be in the room, I'm going to invite you to join me. It's October 30th and October 1st. Go on the website so you can learn more. I'm not going to go into a whole invitation because I didn't know I was going to make one right now. But for many of you, it's a strategy that you need. It's a strategy that's going to make the difference in you moving your business forward. Okay. Be the Answer Intensive. Trying to write it real quick. Is where you need to go to learn more. And it's not just the 2 days. It's also the 4-part Masterclass Series that you get when you enroll. It's the I'm laughing because y'all know I can't walk and chew gum. Those of you that know me, I'm trying to type and talk and do all kind of stuff. So with that said, thank you, Yolanda. So those of you that know you should be in the room, betheanswerintensive.com, look it up. But that will walk you through the 4-part strategy that will help you be successful. So, but before you even look at that, get clear on where you have holes in your business, because those are the places you need to recalibrate in. The third area, faith is simply taking the next step, which, by the way, is where I got this whole GPS conversation from. So, the thing that's interesting is the difference between the GPS and MapQuest. Y'all remember MapQuest back in the day? Oh, I was confused with MapQuest, and I talked about this last week, right? So the thing with the GPS is all you need is your next step. And if Peter would have just focused on his next step instead of looking at everything that was going on around him, he would not have gotten intimidated. And for many of you, the reason why you're in overwhelm or you're frustrated or you're sitting still in procrastination is because it's too much. And all you need is your next step. So get clear on what that next step is. Many of you, that next step is to get with a coach. Most of you, I'm that coach because a lot of you have been following me for years. Be the Answer is the easiest way for you to get in a room with me for 2 days. So if that is what it is, get your butt in a seat and stop procrastinating. And if it's not me, then hire who it is and stop procrastinating, right? So that's part 1. And I want you to be clear on where it is that you need to recalibrate, okay? Because it's time for many of you to recalibrate. And what the Shunammite woman is showing us is how to do it gracefully. Those are the first 2 steps. Now, many of you know that I do I do a part 1 on Monday night, and then the part 2 is tomorrow morning during our clubhouse, our faith, purpose, profit breakfast. Now, the reason I do this is because I really do want you to sit with what I talk about tonight. And I want you to bring your conversation to our morning after, because I can hear you on Clubhouse. I can hear you I can't hear you on Facebook, unfortunately. So you can ask me questions. You can share your takeaways. There is a third step, and the third step is so good. So when you, number one, when you're coachable, and number two, when you trust the process, when you understand that there is risk involved, when you trust God and you put your eyes on Him and obey His steps and trust Him to direct your path. Oh, there's something great coming. And so as we end this first part, I want to end it with a question that God asked Ezekiel years ago. Hmm. And we'll start part two, digging this question apart. And the question is, can these dry bones live? Taken from Ezekiel 37, 1 through 14. Can these dry bones live? Oh, I'm going to talk to you about that tomorrow. Oh, y'all just don't even know. So make sure you don't miss tomorrow. So with that, let me give some shout outs. I see Etta, who I see some of my FPP circle ladies. So those of you that are FPP circle, I'll see y'all at 8 p.m. for our group coaching call for the month. I see Etta, and I saw a couple. Oh, Sharon. I see Sharon. I see both of y'all at 8 p.m. for our group coaching call. I see Joy and Rosin. Hey, Rosin and Kim and Yolanda, my Yolanda. I saw more people earlier. I don't know where everybody went, but with that said, that's our episode for tonight. Thank you all for joining me live. I'm always excited to be here with you. I look forward to digging further into this conversation as we talk about when it's time to recalibrate. It's one thing for you to have started the journey in one place, but what I know for sure is God does not expect you to just end on the same level you started. And so let's look at where you are in your journey, in your time to recalibrate, in the strategy you need to go after all that God has called you to do or be in this world. And I look forward to hearing where you are in your read tonight. Ezekiel 37, 1 through 14. Thank you, Yolanda, for typing that in. Can these dry bones live? Can they? Can they live? Will they live? Mm-hmm. And then join us on Clubhouse tomorrow. So, by the way, if you're not on Clubhouse, if you go to fppbreakfast.com, you both get an invitation to join Clubhouse. And then that is our Clubhouse on Clubhouse, fppbreakfast.com. So, I'll see you there. Yolanda will be with me, as she always is, my I don't like to call her my road dog, my partner in transformation. Yeah. So she'll be with me in the morning and some other special guests. So we'll see you in the morning, 8:30 a.m. EST. So until then, have a phenomenal rest of your night. Bye, y'all.